Scoobtober? Scooby-Doo! Welcome to Scoobtober.
We're celebrating Scooby with a little extra spooky on the side all month long, so why not start off with one of the most classic Halloween episodes of them all? This is the 8th episode of the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries, the 6th Scooby series overall, airing in October of 1984. It was written by Paul Dini, who you might know as one of the writers of Batman the Animated Series, where he created the little-known, very obscure character Harley Quinn, or his many other Scooby-Doo projects, including writing the Dooby-Dooby-Doo episode. He was also one of the writers for Scoob Holiday Haunt, a movie we might never see now that it's become a tragic tax write-off. This episode would also actually be the final time all 5 members of the gang would be seen in a series together until a pup named Scooby-Doo in 1988, 4 years later. Unfortunately, this is one of the few series that's fallen to the wayside these days, likely due to the unfounded hatred of Scrappy. The episode to date has never been released on DVD. Even the one time it was supposed to, it was replaced, and the series is not legally streaming anywhere. Your only legal bet is tracking down the VHS released in 1996. It's unfortunate that Scrappy's bad luck likely kept the series hidden, because there clearly are some great gems in it. Let's take a look at this very special Halloween party. Perfect for the warm feeling of the autumn season, we open outside of a costume shop. It's Halloween night, and the gang minus Fred and Velma are on their way to find something unique to wear, though Shaggy and Scooby are more excited about all the treats.
Like plenty for all of us, right, Scoob? I don't know, Reggie.
Shaggy is devastated, but Daphne assures them they'll get more later. Scrappy is excited for his costume, maybe a scary alien. Unfortunately, it seems there already may be some on the loose. They find a neat-looking shop called the Tiny Shop of Terror, but the boys are too scared, so Scrappy carries them in himself, followed by the ominous shadows of the aliens. Shaggy wonders who decorated such a creepy place like Count Dracula, and it seems he may not have been wrong. Daphne assures him they're just in costume for the holiday, and they're offered to be shown the costumes. Scooby heads for the exit, but it seems to be taken.
It's for you. Oh, thanks.
Dracula's happy to see customers from out of town as they chase after the boys, and they beg at their mercy, trying to hide under a table. The laughs of the giggling aliens start to become more familiar, and they unmask themselves to reveal Fred and Velma. I'm kind of concerned about Fred's anatomy here. The boys play their fear off, but Velma still revels in their successful fright to the anger of little Scrappy. Shares always of his uncle's bravery and ghost hunting skills. Hearing that they specialize in said ghost hunting, Dracula's interest is piqued. Decked out in the tablecloth still, Scrappy's impressed by the makeshift costume it's become, so Scooby decides to buy it. Dracula congratulates him, informing him he's the winner of their 1 millionth customer prize, a special invitation to a Halloween party. There's even going to be magic performed by Chandra, the unbelievably remarkable, and quite interesting too. Shaggy isn't convinced, but Dracula insists, informing them of the buffet. Of course, it's all they need to hear to be already prepping their stomachs. Dracula and his helper Igor tell them the other guests will be dying to meet them, and Scooby's laugh becomes more nervous. The gang make their way up the road to the castle they're meant to meet at, fully dressed in their new costumes, though Daphne has to do some extra coaxing for Scrappy. There weren't many options for his size, and well,
I wanted to look scary.
Velma pokes fun at him as he hops with them to ring the door. Dracula invites them in, followed by his wife. A box bounces over and they offer their coats to the creature inside, though it seems to eat them.
Well, I never liked that coat much.
They lead them into the non-living room to meet the other assorted guests, and Dracula introduces Scooby and his friends as Ghostbusters. Everyone runs and hides from them in terror, as they're assured they were just scared by Scooby's costume, which feeds his already very large ego. The gang are all impressed by everyone's costumes and makeup, except one guy who Fred confronts. He tells Fred he'll change right now, and under the reveal of the moon, becomes a werewolf, howling into the night. Scrappy is impressed, but Fred starts to get worried. Velma can't find her broom, finally spying it left by a coffin, though unexpectedly it takes off and she flies all around the room. Chandra helps out with a spell and Velma redirects through the food, the broom returning to Chandra as it's actually hers.
What's up, Doc?
Fred and Daphne check on Velma, who's made a mess, and Igor complains about having to clean it up before being called to clean more by Dracula. Chandra is shocked to see what Daphne calls costume jewelry, telling her it looks like the Moonstone medallion, which Dracula says she's been looking for centuries. Dracula's wife shows Scooby her specialty, though he's not so fond, and Shaggy is presented with Dracula's favorite, which seems more interested in eating him, so they run. A bat flies by, transforming into Dracula to stop them, his wife asking for their knowledge of ghosts. Suddenly, Dracula himself is scared as a ghost appears, saying he, Dr. Van Helsing, has come to get rid of all monsters. The werewolf stands up to him, asking how, and the spirit shows him exactly what he can do. The Dracula is now unable to breathe from the garlic gas. Scrappy's thrilled about the costume, but Dracula tells him that's the real ghost of his age-old enemy. The gang insists it's just a guy in a costume like all of them, but the monsters reveal they're not in costumes. Everybody takes turns trying to see just how real these monsters are, and the unfortunate conclusion is very. Scrappy's elated, but the gang grab him and make a break for it. The Invisible Man locks them in and they beg for freedom, but the monsters all menacingly start chanting that they want them, inching closer. Everyone cowers in the corner as the chanting monsters come toward them, but their chant soon turns into saying they want them to help them. Down on their knees, the monsters beg them for their ghost hunting abilities to save them from the ghost as Shaggy faints. Dracula explains how they retired, moved from Transylvania, and stopped scaring people. Unfortunately, they were followed by the ghost, so when Dracula overheard their earlier conversation, he hoped they could help. Daphne thinks they can do it, but Chandra is skeptical. Shaggy and Scooby want nothing to do with this, but Daphne offers the magic decision maker that is Scooby Snacks, and she tosses them only for the Wolfman to gobble them all down. Then cleaned by Igor. Daphne tells Dracula they need to look for clues, and he sends the annoyed Igor to go get torches for them.
Keep a lookout for anything suspicious or scary.
You gotta be kidding.
One team suddenly hears a cackle as the wind blows and the lights go out, and upon the lights returning, the mummy and Velma are gone, making the case even more urgent. Chandra confidently believes she'll be the one to drive out the ghost, beginning a spell, but it seems both she and the Invisible Man disappear before she can do anything.
The Invisible Man! He's gone too!
Like, how can you tell?
Fred points out some debris around the cape, upsetting Dracula upon seeing a mess uncleaned by Igor, but Daphne declares it a clue, noting that there was similar dirt on the floor of the party and after Velma disappeared. The ghost reappears to mock them, darkening the room as Shaggy is too scared to see who he took this time. Turns out, it's them as they find themselves in the dungeon as the walls are closing in and they look for a way out.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Scooby finds the Moonstone Medallion, though he doesn't know what it is, and they wish they were out of there. Suddenly, as the medallion glows, their wish is granted and they're in a cellar tunnel full of recently dug holes. They hear Velma scream for help, and find she and the Invisible Man tied up. They find the mummy too, but no Chandra, and they wish they were back with Daphne and the others. The medallion glows, and they reappear back with everyone else. Dracula immediately recognizes the medallion, saying he hid it down there to keep it from the evil magic being taken by the wrong person. The ghost reappears and takes it, throwing it over to Chandra, who appears from a trap door. They call her out on being the one to dig all those holes in the cellar, explaining the dirt on the crime scenes, and she admits to conjuring the ghost to aid her. She puts the medallion in full effect with her wand as she begins her plan to take over while everyone flees, trapped in the lab. The Draculas turn into bats so they can fly away, but Fred calls them cowards and Daphne tells them they have to teach her a lesson. Velma reminds them to just act like monsters, remotivating the Count. They help each of the monsters take turns on powering back up. Electricity, the moon, even some, red juice. Just red juice, nothing in particular like, say, blood. They down the nut blood to make some pretty unsettling faces. Chandra appears to finish them, but the Wolfman swats away her wand, which Daphne catches. But the ghost takes it, but then Scooby reclaims it, and he comes up with a spell to make her disappear. Nothing happens as she joyfully cackles, though she does grow bigger. Scooby drops the wand and she takes control, turning the Draculas into baseball bats, the Wolfman into a puppy, and Frankie into a wind-up toy. Chandra aims her magic at Scooby next, but he runs across the lab to avoid it until it comes all the way back and hits her, turning her into a frog instead. Everybody else returns to normal, and Scooby falls on top of the ghost, catching him. Daphne unmasks him, revealing Igor, who explains he was tired of being ordered around all the time with no care. Chandra's plan to get rid of the monsters would finally free him, and Fred finds all the trapdoors and wires they used. Dracula is disgusted and extremely jealous he wasn't the one who thought of it. Turns out, being disloyal and awful is something to strive for among monsters. To celebrate his misdeed, they nominate him to become a full-fledged monster finally. Mrs. Dracula says they had such a good time, they should go back to their old jobs. Unfortunately for the gang, that's being monstrous, so Scooby and the gang run out to the van and get out of there. And that's the episode. The thing about this era of Scooby is, contrary to the promotion of Zombie Island being the first time, during the Scrappy period, many of the monsters were real. It's pretty controversial with fans, and often doesn't work, but there's no better time to have real monsters than a Halloween party with Dracula and all the classic creatures. This is one case of the monsters being real that I think is fun and still worth checking out. It's not the strongest episode of Scooby, coming from an admittedly weak era, but it's a fun half hour for the best season of the year. On another note, the last time I mentioned Marla Frumpkin was in my Scooby-Doo Family Tree video, where I noted how terrible her performance was as Velma, or at least how unbearable the direction was. She's still the voice of Velma in this series, and she's a lot better by this point, probably from playing the character for a while by now.
Good job, eh, Scooby? You and Shaggy are still the biggest chickens on Earth. Now, where did I put my witch's broom? I know I brought it with me. Oh, there it is!
That being said, I really still don't care for her in the role, and she's probably my least favorite voice the character has ever had.
Thanks for stopping dropping that broom, miss. I didn't catch the name.
Velma, of course, has probably had the most voices over the years anyway. Outside of Velma, everyone else gives the standard performance you'd expect. It's unfortunate, again, that this episode is just completely out of circulation these days, but maybe that will change in the future. Or maybe not. Just look at the state of things over at Warner Bros. Discovery. Have you seen this classic episode before? Be it on TV, the VHS, or a maybe not so legal way? What do you think of it? Or even the new Scooby-Doo mystery series itself? In December, we'll be returning to the series again for the other holiday special, one much more widely circulated even today. So look forward to that if you liked this one. I guess that mummy wraps up this video. There's plenty more coming this Scoobtober, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the fun, and like the video, etc. Follow me on socials for updates if you want to. And that's it. Bye!